back. This is episode number 6. In today's episode, we're gonna be talking about 19 Keys and his high level conversation with Grant Roberts. And on today's conversation, he was talking about how they use a bunch of different methods to understand the world and world concepts, and how they just use different thinking ideas um, to conceptualize everything in the world, from small to big, from why winds go like this to like constellations. And most of this stuff, if not all of this stuff, is centered around Egypt. And they have listed like a lot of untapped knowledge, because nobody really knows where to date it and who to date it for. 19 Keys is a spiritual, and he believes in the power of math, and math being centered around the whole universe. And while the person sitting across from him, Robert Grant, is, it says here, he was formerly a CEO and president of Bosch and Lom Surgical. So he was a very on the opposite side of the spectrum. He was the big top guy, and he's got a bunch of companies, but he has his portfolio holds healthcare, clean energy, social media, and financial technology. And within this podcast, he spoke about his ventures to Egypt, and how he's in search of knowledge and spreading knowledge and showing everybody else what exactly it is he's looking for. Um, and we see a lot of I personally see a lot of a clash between 19 Keys and his math, and this guy having like a different way of thinking. But in the center of it, they connect on all points, if not some points. But overall, the whole video, it's a 3 hour long podcast. They have it on audio and they have it a video. Um, it's a great listen. I mean, just listen to smarter people talk kind of just helps understand, if not, just it's a new concept to grasp throughout the day. Um,
So we're talking about the perfection of, for every second is 10 miles of diameter of the sun. For every second of one day is 10 miles of I mean, that's kind of perfect. Right? Like, seriously? How the hell would somebody have come up with that? Well, it's because consciousness made this so that it would be found. Who is consciousness? It is this concept of God, a creator, right? And, it was Louis Pasteur who said, when you study a little science, you go farther away from God. When you study a lot of science, you come nearer to him. Realizing that all these patterns and syntropy are not coincidences is for us to learn, so that we can now enter into a new age of thought. A new age of thought that brings us to the realization that the hurt of one man is the hurt of all, and the love of one man is the love of all. And that enlightenment really is when our expression of love as humanity supersedes and exceeds our desire for one objective truth and the ego of being right. And that's what I hope is going to be changing in this world. And I, for one, I'm here for it, right? That's what I'm here for. And I just think that humanity has this incredible resilience. And when we have the truth, whatever that truth is, it could be ugly. What we're here to learn is how to fall in love with all of it. We need to stop seeking perfection and start seeing it all around us. That's when the world's going to change.
when Grant says we need to stop seeking perfection and start seeing it all around us, and along with other stuff he said in this video, he started saying that the reason there's a lot of people who just produce a lot of hate, or just always see a lot of hate, is because they have something within them that produces that. And by law of attraction, what you put out is what you get back. So if throughout the day you're dealing with a bunch of shitty people. Maybe it's just because the energy that you're giving off or whatever it is that you're emanating is just, it's not what you should be, but you're not too aware as to why it's happening. So that could go, that goes everywhere because energy is emotion and emotion is how people go by. And what 19 Keys throughout this he was saying is that this new generation moves purely on emotion rather than on a consciousness, and that's what's affecting a new generation of thought leaders because we're not focused objectively on the mission at hand. We're more so focused on why we don't have what we need or what we're seeing somebody else have. And that's the distraction that we have to pull away from to be able to see that everything else is not going as planned, and that only together we are able to mesh everything together and just zoom past whatever they're trying to put in front of us, because we're stronger in the number and we're stronger just seeing one another help each other than seeing them take stuff that's an open resource and just make us fight for it. Because when we see an animal do it, it's, oh, look at those like weird animals, why don't they just work together? But then we can see the same scenario happen with humans, and it's a whole different result and a whole different thought process as to why nobody's working together.
Supposed to be non-local. We supposed to be superposition. We supposed to have connection with things all throughout the universe. Things that I do have ripple effects not only throughout space but time. So I don't, when you are existing beyond space and time, those are the ones that are really living, because what you do matters, not even for just this small thread of your first cry, right? And your last, and you gone. But it actually matters because people will pick up your work, your discoveries.
Yep.
You have actually made a ripple throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't even know how far that will go.
Exactly.
Here we have 19 Keys explaining that him and himself, he believes he is a being beyond who he is in this moment. That whatever he's doing today in the long run will have a greater effect than it has in the current moment, because this conversation, like he said, transcends into another place, another person's perspective. And this is a prime example of how it's doing that, because as he was sitting there, he didn't know somebody's gonna pick this up and clip it up and use it. But he just said, I am gaining this information and I am putting it out for the world to grasp however they grasp, and to push a message forward of one consciousness and just the pushing forward of knowledge and seeking knowledge. And the really cool part about this is, on a personal level, if you've had a conversation with me, if you have a conversation with me, you will know that if whenever the people come around and they're like, what is it that you want to do in life, while everyone's like, oh, like a doctor or a cop or something like regular, I'm always like, I want to be remembered even past whatever the brink of humanity is, or something like the motion of being a better, not a better, like a not nothing better, just being able to leave something behind is just something really cool. Like me personally, every time I see like a bridge or something, or if I see something old that says, oh, 1910, or it says like 1850 or some shit, it's like this has been standing here for this long, and just build upon what this is. Like, this is the base level of what I could take this. So whoever comes after me and whoever's my successor, take what I'm giving you and just push it and help push the message, because that's what my purpose is. So with with coming together on a new mindset and grasping new ideas. The reality of this, which was left behind a while ago, as dreams do when things aren't going the right way, you kind of just leave, you tuck them a little bit just because it's not important right now. It's gotta you gotta keep your head down and just do what you gotta do. But as you start seeing the light a little bit more, you're like, oh, it starts to creep back up. If it's really what you want to do, it starts to creep back up, and it's like, oh, don't forget. And when he said that, it reminded me of how I said it myself, how it's to be here past your current lifetime and see that your being here actually made a difference in the world. And I think that he put it the best way that could be. um and I guess that kind of just leaves you with two options, and it's kind of the overall question of what do you do with this kind of power. And is it A, do you get all this power and keep it to yourself and decide you want to be like the current holders of power and just sell it to the rest of us so that you can gain an enormous profit? Or do you B, realize that information is the infrastructure needed to build and bridge together different communities and build a whole consciousness within a community, within overall communities? Because imagine if everybody just thought not thought the same, but thought in the same overarching goals, like, oh, we all need to eat, so we can all come together and figure out how to make sure everybody on a block gets fed. Or if we all need better schools, we'll all come together and be like, what can we do to make a certain group of kids, or if whoever decides to participate, how do we make sure that your efforts aren't going to waste? How do we make sure that if you got my back, I got your back, and we can go help whoever's over there? um that's what the that is what I believe the overarching point of this is, because we're made to help each other along the way, not watch me get rich off of everybody else's work, because that's just lame. That's what we have now. And no, there's not one person being a millionaire because they woke up and became a millionaire. It's because everybody thought, look at this person with a great idea, let me support it, and that's how they rose to the top. So even the person at the top wasn't just born a millionaire. Somebody had to be a sacrifice for them to be able to move up. um and that's that's basically all we're seeing in history and how everything's unfolding today, because they're pushing just a strict guideline of how do we just push for profit versus how do we push for a creative and a safer place, which is just a united place. Or more so, how do we push for an equal benefits? But to get to there, we're gonna all have to actively search for information and search for what can bring us together, because we're all willingly dividing ourselves into different groups of just random things, like, oh, if you like Android or if you like iPhones, they're both a cellular phone, but because they got a different feel to them, people are just strictly dividing themselves. Back in the day, more, probably not right now, but you used to get clowned if you had an Android. It's like that little thing right there. Just if you rag on the person with an Android, you're like lowering their self esteem, versus if you're just like, oh shit, well, just you got a phone too, which normal people, they'll get over it, but then you got like other people who really try to push that divide, and those, it's cool. I'm not saying those people are dumb, but I mean, it's up to you to decide how do you push your own consciousness.
And let down they guard. We got choppers out until we find somewhere to park. Pussy, hit the cup and nudge. Trench used to curb me, now they treat me like I'm God.